Greetings, folks. We're going to shoot a little video here showing you how to properly adjust the active clutch system on a Grillo walk-behind tractor. This tractor is a G107 model Grillo, but the same clutch appears on the G110 model machines as well as the G85, G85D, and G131s. Basically, all the Grillo tractors sold from roughly 2018 onward have the active clutch system. If you're not sure what type of clutch you have, the active clutch system is identified by having this red clutch control lever that you depress to make the machine go. When you let this go, the machine drive stops. It doesn't kill the engine. This is not an engine kill switch. This is actually the clutch control. So if you have an older Grillo machine that has a red lever here that when you let it go, the engine dies, that's not the active clutch system. That would have a clutch on the bottom. On this particular model, this control is actually the handlebar swivel control. On a G110, for example, there is no control on the bottom. There's just nothing here. You just have the active clutch control on the top. The active clutch has been installed in the G110 since roughly 2015. Anyway, the way you adjust the cable on an active clutch system is different than the way you would adjust it on a standard clutch system. So you don't want to confuse the two adjustment methods. Basically, what the active clutch is doing, as I've just illustrated, is, its normal position of the clutch is open. Let me set down these tools. That means the clutch facings are normally open so that the engine, which is connected to one half of the clutch, can rotate and it doesn't make the transmission go. And then when you push the lever down, it pushes those facings together so that the engine drives the transmission. So what happens in a working situation with a clutch system like this is that the clutch plate wears. There's a wear component on one of the clutch surfaces. One component is steel, the other one is has like a clutch lining which looks like a brake pad material, and that'll slowly get worn away as the tractor works. So as that wears away, the cable is going to have to be tightened up a little bit to compensate for it. Otherwise, your clutch will start slipping eventually. So if I start this tractor up now, what will happen is, if I put it in gear, say first gear, actually let me go ahead and shift it into gear now. Hard to do with it not running. So I'm going to start it up, and I'm going to pull back on this handle. Now the way the clutch handle works, there is a little safety latch right here, and you can't fully pull this lever down until you hit that safety. See, I can only pull it that far. So if I reach down here and hit the safety release, I can pull it all the way down. That's a good feature because you don't just accidentally lean on the thing and make it go. Well, I use that little safety lever as kind of a guide for how tight to make that cable. I want that cable so tight that if I've got the tractor in first gear and I pull that back just against the safety stop, that tractor should actually start to move just a little bit. It starts to transfer power right there. And I'm also doing that adjustment with the handlebar in this position. That is the front PTO position. This is the position you would run a mower or chipper shredder or any of the implements that are out front. The handlebars, when the handlebars are in this mode, the cable tends to get a little tighter because you're curving the cable sheath a little more than you do when the handlebars are on the other side of the machine. So this is the position you want to make your adjustment in to get it as tight as it reasonably can be. It'll be a little looser when you turn it around, but it'll still work okay. But the thing is, if you get it super all the way to its tightest point with the handlebars on the other side, and then turn around to this side, it'll actually be too tight. And if it's too tight, that means the tractor never stops. That is, you put it in gear and it just starts going before you even touch the lever. Then you know you've got the cable too tight. And if loosening the cable doesn't fix it, then you've got a bearing problem in the clutch, but that's a different deal. So, I'm going to go ahead and start this up for a second. You can see what I've just demonstrated. I got it in first gear. And it wasn't quite adjusted tight enough. See, I had to actually depress this and pull this back a little extra. That is, if I just pull it back against the stop, it's not going. So, right there is where it starts going. So I'm going to adjust this thing a little tighter. And you can adjust it with the tractor running. There's no danger by doing that. Now you've got two places to adjust the cable. You've got an upper adjustment bolt here. This takes 10mm wrenches. And you've got a lower adjustment bolt here, which takes 13mm wrenches. They both adjust the same thing, which is the cable tension. It just gives you two places to adjust it. So if you run out of adjustment in one spot, you can go to the other spot. Now, if you have an electric start tractor, the battery sits right here and makes this bolt a little more difficult to get to, but you can still get to it. You just have to kind of work under the battery box. Typically, I will try to adjust the clutch cable here at the top first, just because it's more convenient. And what you're going to do to tighten a cable is you want to back the adjustment bolt out to expose more threads on the adjustment bolt. Or in the case of the bolt at the bottom, you're making the bolt go this way. Now here at the bottom, you've got two nuts that are cinching the bolt in on either side of the support bracket. You can bring the camera in there if you want to get a nice close-up of that. So you've got the support bracket coming up in the middle. You've got a nut on either side, these jam nuts, which I will put the wrench on here is one jam nut and the other jam nut, and then the bolt itself, which is a slightly smaller head. This is a 12 millimeter. So let me go ahead and demonstrate backing that bolt out. So what I would do here is I would loosen the nut on the front side if I wanted to tighten this cable, and I would screw this nut here. This is tricky to do because it's right up against the bolt head. I would screw this nut in. So what I'm doing is, if you watch, this nut, as I tighten it down, is pulling the bolt back. That's tightening the cable. I've got fewer threads exposed on the front side, and I'm starting to expose a little thread here on the back side. That's pulling the whole cable this way and pulling this clutch fork further. This is the clutch fork, by the way. That's the thing that activates the clutch down in there. So I've tightened this. That's probably plenty. In fact, that's probably too much. We'll start up the tractor and check here. Like I say, you're welcome to do this these adjustments with the tractor running. It doesn't hurt anything. A little more choke. Didn't run it enough. There we go. Starts to go even before I depress the safety knob. Into neutral. So, that's great. Actually, it was just maybe slightly too tight, but I mentioned I might have made it too tight because I noticed even when I let it go, it was still trying to pull forward just a hair. So I'm going to go ahead and bring this bolt back in. Now you say, oh, I adjusted that bolt out. Why am I adjusting this bolt back in? They both do the exact same thing. It's just both cable tension on either end. So I'm going to screw this bolt back in to take a little cable tension off of it. I loosened up the jam nut. And then I'm going to tighten this bolt back in. You can come in for a close-up of that if you'd like. So this is the jam nut that holds it in place. Typically you hold the bolt, loosen the jam nut, and then while holding that, adjust the bolt in the direction you want it to go. Now in this case, I want to loosen it up, so I'm going to screw it back in this way. If I was going to tighten it, I would back it out this way. But we're not. I want to go in. So I'll go in about a turn from where it was. Right about there. We'll check it one more time here. And gotta choke this thing every time. Perfect. Alright. Get that back in neutral. I should have done that while it was running. Normally these things have long gear shifts on them where you don't have to lean over like this, but we're about to shift this tractor, so I don't have the gear shifts mounted. There we go. Neutral. Gears are always a little tighter when they're new. Now, if you run out of adjustment on both of these bolts, if you get this one backed out, there's about an inch of threads inside here, so you can back this out quite a ways. If you run out of adjustment on that bolt and this bolt, you can always reset the cable clamp on the end of the cable. That is, this cable comes through here, has a clamp on the end of it with a bolt, cinched into the side of the cable. You can loosen up that clamp body, slide the clamp up the cable more, that is, pull more cable, just grab this with the pliers and pull it out toward the engine here, slide the clamp back further and reset it, and that'll give you a whole nother bite. That is, you can do that. What I would do is I would run your adjustment bolts back in, then adjust the cable clamp, and then slowly adjust your adjustment bolts out. Usually there's enough adjustment on the two bolts that you'll never have to adjust this until you finally have to break a cable and have to replace a cable. But just in case, there's a total of 3 places to adjust the thing. But those are the criteria for adjusting it.